Everything these days seems to come down to Donald Trump. The wars in Ukraine and Gaza grind on, diplomatic tensions flare across the world, and yet Washington is consumed not with any grand strategy, but with what Trump will do next. And his latest political purge, in a single night of long knives, he's sacked the highest ranking general in America, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, the first black officer to hold the role and only the second in US history. He's also dismissed the Navy's top admiral, Lisa Franchetti, the first woman ever to lead a military service, and a host of other senior officials, including the military's top lawyers. Why? Well, Trump and his defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, insist this is about putting war fighters first, rooting out the woke rot that they claim is corroding the US military. But is this necessary shake-up at the right time? Indeed, is it a necessary shake-up, or a reckless act of political point scoring at the worst possible time? General Brown's firing is the most politically explosive. He's a highly decorated pilot with a combat record spanning multiple conflicts, appointed originally by Trump himself as an Air Force Chief of Staff before Biden elevated him to chairman of the Joint Chiefs. So why is he being forced out? According to Hegseth, Brown represents the so-called woke military that Trump has railed against. The general's real crime, it seems, is making a heartfelt speech in 2020 following the murder of George Floyd, reflecting on the unique challenges of being a black officer in the US military. And for Trump and his allies, this was proof that Brown was an advocate of the diversity and inclusion initiatives that they so despise. Brown was denounced as a die-hard despite 4 decades of stellar service. The reality, of course, is that Brown's qualifications are unimpeachable. His replacement, retired Lieutenant John Raisin Crane, lacks the same level of experience and wasn't even a 4-star general. His main credential appears to be his close relationship with Trump, who claims Kane once assured him he could wipe out ISIS in a week. If true, that was either a joke or a delusion, because it didn't happen, it hasn't happened, it won't happen. The problem with surrounding yourself with cronies is that it's a recipe for failure. Ask Liz Truss. I'm sure she could be on hand in a second in Washington to tell Mr. Trump that, or indeed Farage. Brown's removal is only part of the larger picture. Trump and Hegseth are targeting not just top military leadership, but also the legal officers, the judge advocates general responsible for upholding military law. Hegseth has openly mocked them as jag-offs in his book, accusing them of being obsessed with rules rather than victory. I'm not quite sure whether I like the expression jag-off. The firings suggest that legal oversight is now seen as an inconvenience, and given Trump's past record of intervening in war crimes cases, this move raises serious concerns about what rules might now be ignored. After all, Trump has had his own direct experience of law and of ignoring it. Lisa Franchetti, the Navy chief, is another casualty. Despite decades of experience, she was also dismissed, with Hegseth preemptively calling her a die-hire in his book before she even took the role. The pattern is clear. This isn't about qualifications or experience or commitment or competence. It's about purging any leader associated with policies that Trump dislikes. And every administration makes personnel changes, but mass firings at this level are almost unprecedented, especially at a time when the US is facing 2 major international crises that it's intricately enmeshed in. The military, for all its flaws, relies on stability and continuity, and Trump's dramatic reshuffling not only risks disrupting ongoing operations, but also sends a chilling message to officers: loyalty to Trump matters more than experience or competence. This is not how the world's most powerful military should function. The US is engaged in crucial military support for Ukraine, deterrence efforts in the Indo-Pacific, and managing the risks of escalation in the Middle East. And now, in the middle of it all, Trump has set off a firestorm inside his own house, inside his own military. among his own soldiers. It's as if he's trying to reproduce what Putin, or whatever the Putin people are in the Kremlin, are doing over there in Russia. The big question is this: is this a legitimate reset or a political vendetta? Does Trump have the right to clean house? Absolutely. But is now the time to do it? No. When the world is already on fire? No. That is stupidity. Trump's critics see this as a dangerous precedent, one that puts ideology over military effectiveness, revenge over reason, and personal grievances over national security, and his supporters call it necessary house cleaning. But one thing is clear: at a moment when America needs its best and its most experienced military minds, it is being led instead by a man who values obedience over expertise, who values control over experience, who values barking over common sense. And someone clearly is barking. History will judge whether this was a master stroke or a disaster. But one thing I think is absolutely incontrovertible. With Trump, the story cannot stay on the battlefield. It always comes back to Trump. Trump, like Kenneth Williams, is never happy unless he is the center of every conversation, unless he is the person who everyone is talking about. And from that point of view, Trump must be terribly happy at the moment. Trump must be filling the room with his own flatulence, because nobody can talk about anything else. One sniff, and you know who's responsible.